Good afternoon, my dear students. Today in English, we are going to learn a new topic, which is a poem, My Books. My books. I love my books. They are the homes of queens and fairies, and knights and gnomes. Each time I read, I make a call on some quaint person, large or small, who welcomes me with a hearty hand and leads me through his wonderland. Each book is like a city street along whose winding way I meet new friends and old who laugh and sing and take me off adventuring. Let us understand the first stanza. I love my books. They are the homes of queens and fairies and knights and gnomes. Here, the poet loves his books. Children, we should all have the habit of reading. Reading makes our mind very sharp. We become very intelligent when we read. So, we should love all our books, not just our study books, but all the story books that we get in the library, all the novels. We should try to read as many as possible. There are also different pictures, colorful pictures in these books. Books carry you to a different land. They give you a very different experience. Your vocabulary increases. So, you should love your books and try to read as much as possible. So the poet is saying that he loves his books. They are the homes of queens and fairies and knights and gnomes, which means many a times we come across fairy tales. We read the fairy tales like Cinderella. So there are queens in the storybooks, there are fairies, knights and gnomes. Knights means the soldiers. Often when we read a story about the kingdom, there are soldiers who protect the kingdom and they are known as knights. The K is silent and it is known as knights. Knights means the soldiers guarding the kingdom. And gnomes. Gnomes means tiny men guarding Earth's treasure. In the story, there is a treasure hidden somewhere. So, the person who guides the treasure is known as a gnome. A gnome is a very tiny person with a long beard. So, if you see, this tiny man is a gnome, and often these gnomes know how to perform magic tricks. Each time I read, I make a call on some quaint person, large or small, who welcomes me with a hearty hand and leads me through his wonderland. So, here the poet is saying that each time he reads a book, some quaint person means a very strange person who looks very unusual, and the quaint person wears all old fashioned clothes, okay, and he's very attractive. So the quaint person is sometimes large and sometimes very small, very tiny, who welcomes the poet with a hearty hand. Means he gives a warm welcome to the poet. Okay, hearty hand means to greet someone, to give them a warm welcome. When there are guests at our place or relatives, we give them we welcome them in our house, right? We give them a hearty hand and leads me through his wonderland. So the quaint person, he takes the poet, he greets him with a hearty hand and takes the poet through the wonderland. The wonderland means the story which the poet is reading, which is a very beautiful story. The wonderland is a magical land with fairies, queens, and all the beautiful things in the world. So the poet feels very relieved, very happy when he reads. about these stories where there is a quaint person and there are many adventures in the story. So you see, it is very interesting to read a book. You feel like as if you're into the book, you're into the story itself. Your imagination power increases. Each book is like a city street, along whose winding way I meet new friends and old who laugh and sing and take me off adventuring. So the poet is saying that each book is like a city street. If we see in a city on the street, there are so many people passing by, walking on the footpath, along whose winding way I meet. So the poet meets different people. The people means the characters in the story. So let's say there's a villain, then there's a hero, then there's a queen in the story. So these are the different characters in the story. The poet meets all these characters. Okay, he makes new friends. He makes friends, that is the characters in the story, and old who laugh and sing. So he makes even new friends and old friends. And they take the poet off adventuring. So there are mystery stories, there are horror stories, there are moral stories, many stories, Panchatantra, and different adventure stories also. The poet likes to read fairy tales and adventure tales. We come to know from here because in the first stanza he was talking about the fairies and the queens. In the last stanza he is saying about adventuring. So these different adventure stories, he loves to read them. Now children, let's read the poem aloud. My books. I love my books. They are the homes of queens and fairies and knights and gnomes. Each time I read, I make a call on some quaint person, large or small, who welcomes me with a hearty hand and leads me through his wonderland. Each book is like a city, along whose winding way I meet new friends and old who laugh and sing and take me off adventuring. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye.